ever wonder why some businesses skyrocket while others can barely get off the ground? It's not about the idea. It's about how efficiently the show is run. Today we're going to dive into the secrets that transform my business. Let's dive right in. When working on scaling a business and growing it long term, you really need to focus on operational efficiency. It's not some exciting term. It's not something that you're like, whoa, operational efficiency. But really, it sets a baseline. It sets a foundation for you to build your business on. And it's something that you'll improve over time. It's not something you're going to nail right away. But it's also something you can't ignore. Because if you ignore operational efficiency, in my opinion, it's like trying to build a sandcastle too close to the ocean. Every time you look away or you step away, you find that the castle has disappeared and you're back with a sandy beach that looks like just anything else around in the area. The first thing I want to discuss are contracts. When I say contracts, I don't only mean employment contracts or customer contracts. I mean both. The reason both are important is for employees, for example, you want to put your expectations on paper. You want to put their responsibilities on paper. You want it to be very clear to them what their job is and what you expect of them. If you just go in there, shake their hand and say, here's the job, good luck, that's not going to work. Raven. The same goes for customer contracts. When I first started, I believed that you could just shake somebody's hand or you could just have a verbal conversation with somebody and everything would be just fine. I learned within my first year of business that did not work. Multiple things fell apart. I ended up in a very unpleasant situation that could have been easily avoided. You might think, oh, well, a contract means I don't trust my customer, or it makes it awkward because now I have to have them sign a document. Well, here's the thing. Anybody who doesn't want to sign a reasonably written contract is not your customer, right? And I say reasonably written is you should consult a lawyer or an attorney and have it professionally written up. You writing some sort of ridiculous terms on a sheet of paper and calling a contract, you may not get customers who want to sign, and also it may not hold up in court. Consult your professionals for that. But again, a reasonable customer will sign the contract. And really the contract, if it's written properly, it holds both parties accountable. It holds you as the contractor responsible for whatever the work may be, and explains how it's done and what the scope is and the time. And for the customer, it explains what their responsibilities are in terms of payment and what they can expect. Really, a contract here, it makes everything very clear for everybody. It makes the situation very clear. Next up is employee training. Without trained employees who know what they're doing, what their expectations are, you're going to have chaos, especially if you're trying to scale it to the point where you can send them off on their own, or you can step away for a little while and let them work on their own. That's what I did in the beginning. I didn't have any sort of training. In fact, I own a junk removal business, and I figured, how hard could it be? As I found out, it can be hard. For example, I expect the trucks to be loaded a certain way. I expect trucks to be loaded smart so that there are no gaps in the truck, so that we can load the maximum amount of stuff in there. I thought that was very obvious. But as I found out over time, a lot of my ex-employees would throw stuff in there. They wouldn't care. They would mix up metal. They would mix up donations. And it was chaotic. Sometimes even stuff was loaded to the point where I thought it was going to start falling out of the truck. Completely unsafe. I had to take a step back and say, hold on a second. What's obvious to me may not be obvious to them. And that's going to apply to multiple industries, especially ones where things get more complex than just loading junk in a truck. Right? The next thing that's going to help is just scaling. If you can get processes down and make everything very clear, you don't have to be there, right? In fact, you can train other people to train those people, and you can focus on what makes the business the most money. For example, I was listening to one of Alex Hormozi's podcasts last night, and he was talking about if you're not, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he essentially said if what you're doing isn't currently helping make more money, you're probably doing the wrong thing. If you're stuck in the field just training people and over again, and you've got high turnover, you're not making progress, right? You're just barely just you're not progressing. You're doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results, right? By helping build up a foundation, by creating different training manuals, by providing videos, you can really help scale up your business. The other thing it does too is it reduces liability. For example, for me, I now provide training videos on how to carry stuff, on how to take breaks, on how to hydrate, all these things that, again, to me seem very basic, but to others may not be so basic. They have to watch the videos, make sure they understand, and then they have to sign a waiver to show that they understood. That makes their work environment safer. It lets me know that they know the material that they learn, and then it also helps should anything ever happen. God forbid, it's documented that the training was provided to the employee. Really, it's a win-win-win situation here if you think about it. When I first started, I would hire basically anybody. If they had a pulse and they showed up to the interview, I would hire them. And as you can imagine, it was a total disaster. Half the time I would get people who are they had the wrong mentality. When you start building up the business, you're going to really learn what your brand is and what your company culture is. And from us, it's people who are excited to be at work. It's people who are excited to talk to the customers, who are excited to help our customers navigate the stressful part of their life that they've called us into. And so in the beginning, especially in the beginning, it was part-time. We didn't have that much work. If you've seen my other video, the first year we only made about $50,000, right? That's not very much, especially not for a company. It was a great beginning for me, and it was definitely an improvement over what I was making at my full-time job, but it wasn't great. My guys were getting less than 15 hours a week. Probably, actually, less than 15 hours per pay period, which is 2 weeks. So they were getting about 7 hours a week. That's not great. It's okay for somebody who's in college. It's okay maybe for somebody who's just starting their first job, but I didn't think about all that when I started. And so I would get candidates who would say, oh, I'm looking for full-time work, or I'm looking for, I have a family to support, or I'm trying to do this or trying to do that. I wouldn't listen to that. And then I'd be surprised when 2 weeks later they were quitting, or they just no longer showed up to work. And so really your most critical decision is when you're first hiring, right? You need to listen to what they say. You need to have good questions prepared so that you can analyze and make sure that they're the right fit for you. What I would also recommend is have a probationary period. So I have a 90-day probation period for all my employees. It's a time for me to make sure that the companies are right fit for them, and likewise on their end, for them to make sure that they like working for me, they like working for my company. And if during any of that time prior to that, either of us figures out that it's not the right fit, that's completely okay, and we move on. That's how it is. You're not going to be able to attract everybody. You're not going to be able to please everybody, and that's completely okay. But my recommendation, what worked really well for me, is sometimes you've got to reject several clients, or not clients, my apologies, several employees before you make the right decision. We've covered several different topics. Next up would be streamlining operations. When I first started, it was very much cobbling things together. For example, in the very, very, very beginning, when I first started my business, I didn't do any record keeping. So I'd probably say the first month it was completely nothing. I was just, this is where I'm going to today. I drew up a quick. I have an iPhone, so I would pull up the Notes app. I would just put in their name, their address, and that's it. And I would go do the job. That's it. And then I quickly found out that didn't work because it is useful to keep records. And I transitioned then over to an Excel sheet, and I continued to use the Notes app. And I probably ran both of those in conjunction for about a year. If there's one big thing that I regret, it would be that. I think that was a total disaster. I think I missed out on a lot of marketing, a lot of data, because I really, other than my notes sheet and Excel sheet, I had no way of really verifying the income. Now I did have QuickBooks, I'm so glad that I did that, and I started that right off the bat. But in the beginning, I also did my own bookkeeping. I watched a few YouTube videos, and again, it's okay to start, but with websites like Fiverr, I use Fiverr for my bookkeeper now. Very reasonable price. It works out fantastic. He's very professional. My accountant has verified what he does. But that's one example of streamlining operations. I handed off the bookkeeping to an expert. I tried looking at the tax code. I think it's like 800 pages, 700 pages. I went ahead and hired a CPA. I tried reading the first couple pages and it seemed like it was in a different language. I passed that on. Another example of streamlining operations. Now for the Excel and note sheet, I went ahead and got a customer software, essentially software that helps me with documenting who my customers are and various job information. I went with a software called Housecall Pro. It's not perfect. I think there are things that really frustrate me and that I've tried to pass on to the developers. If you guys watch this, please take in some of the feedback. But overall, it's so much better. I have customer history. I have their name, their phone number, their address, what I've done for them before. For a service-based business, Housecall Pro has worked out really well for me. It also automates several features. It automatically texts the customers when we first book the job. It texts them a review link. Now, these are things that I set up on my end, but very easy to set up. And it really helped streamline my operations. It really helped keep me organized. And I would say it's overwhelming in the beginning. It was overwhelming for me in the beginning, all these different things that I had to do. But I would say as you do them, it literally opens up so much brain power. And when I mean brain power, maybe like brain capacity to let you focus on really the more important things. You shouldn't be spending hours going through your note sheet, trying to scroll through all the people you have in there, or your Excel sheet trying to compute all these things. I'm not great at Excel, to be fair, but I was wasting so much time stressing out over these things. It's completely stupid. That was one thing I wish I had done right from the start, that I had purchased Housecall Pro. Now, it would have been a big investment. I think it runs me about $1,000 a year, but now I don't even think about it. It's a no-brainer. I would never go back. I will always have some kind of software like this, if not Housecall Pro, something very similar like it in the future, just because it frees up so much space. It really helps streamline. I would say, really to sum up that section, is develop systems that really kind of help automate and really help to remove some of the cumbersome tasks that just take time and they're not very difficult, and also delegate them to other people. I've talked about this in my other videos. Delegating is really crucial. It's one of the hardest things I think to do as an entrepreneur. You feel like you got to do everything yourself, but the reality is you're not the best at everything, and so you need to delegate what you're not great at and find other people to do it and focus what you're great on, and really grow the business. Don't just work in it, grow it. The last topic I would cover, it hasn't come up for me as much yet, but I think it's really important. I'm sure it will come up in the future, but changing management. And what I mean by that, not only having managers that may not necessarily work, getting rid of them, but also yourself. What I mean by that is currently, I still go to every job with my crew. Right now we have one truck, one crew, and I'm taking the difficult decision that probably by June or July, I'm hoping, I will no longer be in that truck. And instead, I will have my team leader and the driver go off on their own. And it's really stressful, honestly. It's stressing me out just thinking about it. But I believe in my team. I believe that I'm setting up great training procedures. And the reality is, I've been doing this for 3 years now. The task of loading junk from a home or a business into a truck, driving it around, pricing to the customer, that is not that hard. In a couple weeks, you can train somebody to do this. I bring so much value in a different role. And that's one of the things I'm pivoting now is business growth, as well as this YouTube channel. I really want to document my trip here, my journey. I think a lot of the big YouTubers, they show the video when they start their channel when they're already huge. And I think a lot of us, for example, Alex Hormozi, again, very inspirational. I watch a lot of his videos. I listen to his podcasts. I wish I could have seen him in the early days. I'm sure in contrast, we'll look back and think his current videos are the early days. But I hope that viewing a channel like me, it's much more relatable. You can follow me on the growth process. And I hope that this video has given you tips. And really, I encourage you to brainstorm, think about the parts of your business that you can streamline, the processes that you can streamline, really help to make this business more efficient, and so you stop wasting time on tasks that you don't need to spend that much time on if you do it properly. Take a minute, slow down, and do it right the first time. That would be my advice. And at the same time, you're not going to get everything right away. For example, for me, right, with the documentation, first I didn't document any customers, then I did the Notepad and Excel, and then I changed over to the software. And so that may be something that you do. That the first solution isn't ideal. Again, for example, the bookkeeping, I purchased QuickBooks Online. I did it myself in the beginning. I made a lot of mistakes, but it was better than nothing. And then I hired a bookkeeper to clean it up, as well as a CPA. Again, that may be something that you do. You do it in phases, and that's completely okay. With that said, I hope this video was helpful to you. I hope that you've gained some additional insight. If you have any comments or any questions, please post them down below. I do read every comment and question. And let's see you in the next video.